the waters around Themyscira had been undisturbed for 3,000 years. Today, they burned. A tear in reality split the Aegean sky. Not the golden shimmer of a boom tube or the crackling violet of a zeta beam, but something older, wilder. The fabric between dimensions screamed as cosmic force punched through barriers never meant to be breached. Lightning the color of dying stars cascaded into the mortal plane, and with a thunderclap that shook the foundations of Paradise Island itself, a figure crashed into the sacred shores. He rose from the crater like a monument to war-given flesh. One eye blazed with ancient power. The other socket bore an empty darkness that had witnessed the birth and death of worlds. His armor, intricate with runes that hurt to perceive, bore the scars of 10,000 battles. In his right hand, a spear hummed with malevolent purpose. Gungnir, the weapon that never missed, dripping seawater and something that looked disturbingly like liquid starlight. His presence pressed against reality itself, the weight of millennia contained in mortal form. Odin Borson, All-Father of Asgard, King of the Nine Realms, stood on foreign soil and immediately knew something was profoundly wrong. The magic here tasted different. Where Yggdrasil's roots fed Asgardian sorcery with the essence of cosmic tree and ancient runes, this realm's mystical foundation ran through different channels entirely. He reached for the Odin force, that infinite well of power passed down through Asgard's kings, and felt it surge within him, but changed, diluted, as if drawing water from a river that suddenly flowed backward. Interloper. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Wonder Woman materialized from the tree line, lasso coiled at her hip, godkiller sword unsheathed. Her eyes, Diana of Themyscira, daughter of Hippolyta, champion of Olympus, assessed him with warrior's precision. You come unbidden to sacred ground. Speak your purpose or face Amazon justice. Odin drove Gungnir into the sand, and the beach trembled. I am Odin, son of Bor, king of Asgard, and I pursue a threat that endangers all realms. His voice carried the authority of ages. A god has fallen to corruption, and the path led here through dimensions I do not recognize. I mean no desecration to your Themyscira, was it? Diana's stance shifted slightly, not relaxation, but recalibration. Her eyes widened with recognition and something close to respect. You claim godhood? I sense divinity in you, ancient and powerful. She gestured, and a dozen Amazons emerged from concealment, bows drawn, spears leveled. But we have seen what gods do when they walk among mortals unchecked. Olympus itself watches this island. Zeus will know of your arrival. Zeus? Odin's single eye narrowed. The name resonated with power, but not the Zeus he knew. Some echo across dimensional boundaries, perhaps. Then summon him. I have no quarrel with your pantheon, warrior woman, but I will not be delayed. My prey moves swiftly, and every moment it remains loose in this realm risks catastrophe. Thunder cracked overhead, not from Odin, but from the heavens themselves. The sky tore open with golden light, and figures descended on columns of divine radiance. Hermes arrived first, winged sandals barely touching sand before he blurred around Odin in assessment. Athena followed, armored and calculating. Then Zeus himself, king of Olympus, whose very presence made the air thick with ozone and authority. Another All-Father, Zeus rumbled, lightning playing across his beard. How interesting, and inconvenient. This realm has enough gods, Norse king. What makes you believe you are welcome? Odin met Zeus's gaze without flinching. Two kings, two pantheons, two cosmic authorities recognizing their equal and opposite. I seek no throne here, Skyfather. I hunt a fallen god. Vidar the Silent, my son's brother in arms, corrupted by forces from a darkness beyond your comprehension. He tore through dimensional barriers fleeing my judgment. The trail ends in your domain. A dark multiverse breach. The new voice belonged to no god. Dr. Fate descended on wings of golden anklight, the helmet of Nabu gleaming with the cold power of order. The Lords of Order sensed the destabilization. Your arrival has triggered alarms across mystical frequencies, Odin of Asgard. You bring chaos to a universe already balanced on a knife's edge. Then help me restore balance, Odin countered. Or stand aside while I do what must be done. None shall stand aside. Batman emerged from the tree line, because of course Batman had somehow infiltrated Paradise Island undetected even during a divine summit. The Dark Knight's cowl revealed nothing, but Odin recognized Predator's assessment in that white-eyed stare. You're claiming to be a god from another reality, hunting another god, and asking us to trust that you're the hero of this story. We've learned what happens when beings with god-level power decide they know what's best for everyone. Diana's hand moved to Batman's shoulder, restraining and reassuring simultaneously. Bruce is referring to events in our own timeline. A hero who became a tyrant, believing absolute control was absolute justice. We're cautious about powerful beings who operate above accountability. Odin studied the man in the bat cowl with renewed interest. No divine power, no mystical energy, just mortal flesh and indomitable will staring down gods without fear. You doubt my word, mortal? I doubt everyone's word until they prove themselves, Batman replied flatly. Diana trusts you're telling the truth. Her lasso would reveal lies. That doesn't mean your actions won't cause collateral damage we can't afford. What exactly is this corrupted god capable of? Vidar wields strength second only to Thor among Asgard's warriors. But the corruption... Odin's expression darkened. He ventured too close to Ginnungagap, the void between realms. Something infected him there, turned his noble silence into emptiness, his strength into hunger. He feeds on life force now, growing stronger with each victim. If he remains loose in a realm dense with mortal population, mass casualty event, Batman finished grimly. He pressed his cowl. Oracle, run threat assessment. Cross-reference dimensional breaches with recent unexplained deaths showing life force drainage patterns. He turned back to Odin. You'll work with Justice League oversight. Diana will be your liaison. I take orders from no mortal. Then you'll leave empty-handed. Batman's voice carried absolute finality. This is our universe, our responsibility. You want our cooperation, you follow our protocols. Or Wonder Woman can escort you back to your dimensional rift and we'll handle Vidar ourselves. The two stared at each other. Ancient king and mortal knight, neither willing to yield. Zeus watched with evident amusement while Athena calculated outcomes. Dr. Fate's helmet tilted, seeing futures branch and converge. Finally, Odin laughed, a sound like distant thunder over mountains. You have steel, mortal. Very well. I will endure your protocols. But know this, when the battle comes, I will do what must be done. And no mortal authority will stay Gungnir's thrust if it means stopping Vidar's rampage. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Batman said, already typing on his gauntlet computer. For now, welcome to Earth. Try not to start any Pantheon wars. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character, and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. As Odin followed Wonder Woman toward a waiting javelin transport, noting how the craft used technology beyond Asgard's ken, he felt the Odin force pulse within him, adapting slowly to this realm's mystical architecture. Somewhere in this strange universe of mortal heroes and fallen gods, Vidar prepared his next strike. And Odin would learn whether wisdom accumulated over millennia could navigate a cosmos where even the noblest heroes could become the very tyranny they swore to prevent. The All-Father had entered DC's universe. The throne of wisdom would be tested in ways Asgard never imagined. The Watchtower hung in geosynchronous orbit like a crystalline monument to unity, but the conference room felt more like a tribunal. Odin stood before the assembled Justice League, not as supplicant, but as visiting sovereign enduring diplomatic necessity. His single eye cataloged each hero with warrior's precision. The Kryptonian whose power rivaled Thor's, the speedster, crackling with temporal energy, the Atlantean king whose presence spoke of deep water pressure and ancient pride, the lantern whose ring hummed with willpower made manifest. Superman floated at the head of the table, cape settling around shoulders that had carried worlds. We've confirmed your story, Odin. Oracle tracked 7 deaths across 3 continents, all victims drained of life force, molecular signatures matching the residual energy from your arrival point. Your Vidar is hunting. Not hunting. Odin's correction carried grim certainty. Feeding. The dark multiverse corruption transforms divine purpose into endless hunger. Each victim strengthens him, pushing the darkness deeper. Soon, the god I knew will be entirely consumed, leaving only the parasite. Then we find him fast. The Flash, Barry Allen, Odin had learned, leaned forward with barely contained kinetic energy. I can search the planet in minutes. Once we have a location, you will die. Odin's bluntness silenced the room. Vidar's silence is not metaphor. He creates zones of absolute stillness. No sound, no motion, no speed force. Your power requires movement, speedster. In his presence, you become mortal flesh meeting godly strength. Barry paled slightly but didn't back down. Then we adapt. That's what we do. Adaptation requires time you won't have. Odin drove Gungnir's butt against the floor, and even in zero gravity the impact resonated. I have fought beside and against Asgard's warriors for 5,000 years. Vidar once held back Surtur's flames at Asgard's gates for 3 days without rest. Now imagine that endurance twisted toward destruction, enhanced by dark multiverse corruption that feeds on the very concept of entropy. Wonder Woman stepped forward, her diplomatic instincts recognizing escalating tension. No one doubts the threat's severity, Allfather, but this league has faced gods before. Darkseid, the Anti-Monitor, even Olympians when they've overstepped. We've learned that cooperation defeats what individual power cannot. Cooperation. Odin studied Diana with new assessment. You speak wisdom, daughter of Hippolyta. Zeus chose his champion well. He turned to address the full assembly. Very well. I will share what I know of Vidar's capabilities, his patterns, the runes that might constrain him. In return, you will brief me on this realm's defensive capabilities and mystical framework. My Odin force functions diminished here. I must understand why before confronting my prey. The source. Dr. Fate materialized from golden light, uninvited but unsurprising. The helmet of Nabu turned toward Odin with alien intelligence. Your Odin force draws from Yggdrasil, the world tree of your reality. Here, all cosmic power ultimately flows from the source, the fundamental wellspring of existence itself. Your energy signature reads as foreign code, attempting to execute in an incompatible system. Can he access this source directly? Batman's question came from the shadows. He'd never actually sat at the table, Odin noted, preferring tactical positioning over diplomatic courtesy. With time and proper mystical attunement, perhaps, Fate's voice carried multiple harmonics, human and divine speaking simultaneously. But the source does not grant power to all who seek it. It judges worthiness through incomprehensible criteria. Even new gods spend lifetimes earning its favor. I have no lifetimes to spare. Odin's eye blazed with barely contained frustration. Each moment Vidar remains free, he grows stronger. The dark multiverse corruption feeds on life, yes, but also on fear, despair, entropy itself. In a universe as densely populated as yours, alarms shrieked through the watchtower before he could finish. Cyborg's synthetic eye blazed with incoming data streams. Metropolis. Multiple buildings just went dark. Power, heat, motion, everything. It's a dead zone expanding from Centennial Park. Thermal satellites show one heat signature at the epicenter. His human eye met Odin's with grim understanding. Something radiating cold that shouldn't exist in nature. Absolute stillness. Odin was already moving toward the transport bay, Gungnir blazing with runes of swiftness. Vidar has begun his feast in earnest. Your city of tomorrow will become a tomb of silence unless we stop him together. Superman's hand on Odin's shoulder carried strength that made even the Allfather pause. The Kryptonian's eyes held determination unmarred by doubt. You know this enemy. We know this city. Both matter. But Allfather... And here, Superman's grip tightened just slightly, a reminder of godlike power held in check. In Metropolis, we don't execute. We save everyone we can, including the villain. That's non-negotiable. Odin met Superman's gaze, seeing reflected there the same unwavering conviction Thor had carried, the same nobility, the same potential for catastrophic idealism. I have heard whispers of your injustice, Kryptonian. A timeline where you chose absolute control over absolute justice. Yet you preach mercy now? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Several League members tensed, hands drifting toward weapons or powers. Superman's jaw tightened, old wounds reopening. That timeline exists as a warning, not a destiny. I've seen what I become when I stop believing in redemption. When I decide I know better than everyone else who deserves to live or die. His hand dropped from Odin's shoulder. Can you say the same, Allfather? How many have you judged unworthy across 5 millennia? The question hung like Gungnir's edge, sharp, unavoidable, cutting both ways. Too many to count, Odin admitted, surprising himself with the honesty. And perhaps too many unjustly. The burden of kingship includes the weight of every wrong decision, every execution that might have been commutation. Your point is taken, son of Krypton. But understand, Vidar is no longer the god who fought beside Thor. The darkness has consumed what made him worthy of mercy. What remains is hunger, given form. Then we'll see for ourselves. Batman emerged fully from shadows, cowl pulled back to reveal Bruce Wayne's unflinching stare. Diana, Superman, and Odin form the strike team. Flash on evacuation. Stay outside Vidar's stillness radius. Cyborg coordinates from Watchtower. Green Lantern creates containment barriers. I'll run tactical and keep contingencies ready. Contingencies? Odin's eye narrowed. For Vidar. Batman's pause carried volumes. And for you, if necessary. You're an unknown variable with god-level power in a universe already scarred by what happens when beings like you stop asking permission. Diana trusts you. Superman's willing to work with you. I'm prepared to stop you if you prove them wrong. The mortal's absolute certainty in threatening an All-Father should have been laughable. Instead, Odin found himself respecting the pragmatism. This Batman understood what many gods forgot. Power without accountability was tyranny, regardless of intention. Your contingency will not be needed, Dark Knight. Odin shouldered Gungnir, feeling the spear's eagerness for battle. I have no interest in ruling your realm, only in preventing Vidar from consuming it. After, I return to Asgard and trouble your universe no more. After, Batman agreed. Assuming there is an after. Oracle reports the dead zone expanded another city block while we've been talking. People are trapped in the stillness, alive but frozen, their life force slowly draining. We have maybe 30 minutes before the effect becomes irreversible. The transport bay doors irised open, revealing a sleek vessel that would make even Asgardian shipwrights envious. Wonder Woman took point, her warrior's grace married to diplomatic authority. Then we stop debating and start acting. The All-Father came to our realm hunting his prey. Let us show him how Earth's heroes hunt. As they boarded the Javelin, Odin felt the Odin Force pulse with combat anticipation. Metropolis sprawled below, a city of tomorrow built on hope, now threatened by a god of silence wielding darkness harvested from failed realities. Somewhere in that crystalline sprawl, Vidar waited, growing stronger with each mortal life he drained. And behind them, Batman uploaded files to the Bat computer labeled Contingency, Odin, 14 different scenarios for neutralizing an All-Father if he proved to be another injustice waiting to happen. The hunt had truly begun, and the prey was no longer certain. Metropolis burned with cold fire. The Javelin descended through clouds that had frozen mid-drift, ice crystals suspended in impossible stillness. Below, Centennial Park had transformed into a monument to entropy. Trees stood petrified mid-sway, fountains captured in crystallized cascade, and hundreds of people stood frozen like Pompeii's victims, terror etched on faces locked between heartbeats. The dead zone pulsed outward in concentric rings, each expansion claiming another block of Superman's city. At the epicenter stood Vidar, The silent god had grown since breaching dimensions. What had been noble Asgardian warrior now towered 12 feet tall, muscle and sinew wrapped around a frame that bent light around its edges. His armor, once gleaming, had blackened to absorb radiance itself. Where eyes should have been, empty voids leaked darkness that tasted of the space between stars. Most horrifying, his mouth hung open in perpetual silent scream, drawing in visible streams of life force from the frozen victims. Each breath made him larger, more real, more wrong. Freya's mercy, Odin breathed, grief and rage warring across ancient features. The corruption has progressed beyond anything I witnessed in our realm. He's not just feeding, he's becoming the hunger itself. Superman hovered beside the javelin, heat vision already building crimson glow behind his eyes. Those people are still alive. I can hear their hearts beating, impossibly slow. One beat every 30 seconds. We pull them out, they might recover. Negative, Cyborg's voice crackled through comms. Energy readings show Vidar's established a sympathetic link with every victim in the zone. Remove one, and he pulls harder on the rest. It's all or nothing. We break his concentration completely, or we lose everyone. Wonder Woman unsheathed the God-Killer sword, its edge humming with divine murder. Then we give him something else to concentrate on. Allfather. What are his combat patterns? What does he fear? Vidar fears nothing. That was his strength. Odin's grip tightened on Gungnir until his knuckles whitened. As a child, he placed his hand in Fenrir's mouth to bind the wolf, knowing the beast would bite it off. He kept silent even as his hand was severed. His courage was absolute. Now, the Allfather's voice dropped to something almost like mourning. Now, that fearlessness serves the void. He will not retreat. He will not negotiate. He will consume until nothing remains, or he is destroyed. Then we destroy him. Superman's declaration carried no doubt, only necessity. No. Odin's eye blazed with Odin force. You save your people, Kryptonian. Vidar is my responsibility, my failure. I allowed him to venture too near Ginnungagap. I ignored the signs of corruption. His blood is on my hands. I will not burden yours with it as well. Batman's voice cut through comms with surgical precision. You're both wrong. Odin, you go in alone against a dark multiverse entity. You risk infection yourself. Your Odin force is already unstable in our reality. Superman, you try to kill him outright. You violate every principle that keeps you from becoming injustice. Diana, you're the compromise. Warrior trained to kill when necessary, but wise enough to choose the moment. Wonder Woman met Odin's gaze. Amazon princess to Asgardian king. I will fight beside you, Allfather. Not as subordinate or commander, but as equal warrior. Together, we give him battle worthy of song. Separately, we risk exactly what the dark multiverse desires: division, doubt, entropy. The silent god's head snapped toward them, those void eyes seeing despite having no eyes to see with. His mouth opened wider, and the streams of life force intensified. Below, frozen victims' faces began to sink inward, as if age accelerated and fast forward. We're out of time for planning. Flash's voice carried barely controlled panic. Life signs dropping fast. Whatever we're doing, we do it now. Odin raised Gungnir skyward, and the Odin force erupted. Not the full cosmic might he commanded in Asgard, but enough to paint the frozen sky with lightning that hurt to perceive. Ancient runes blazed along the spear's length, each one a binding forged in Asgard's foundries, tested against Surtur's flames, blessed by Yggdrasil's roots. Vidar, the All-Father's voice boomed, with authority accumulated across millennia. By Bor's blood and Asgard's throne, I command you, cease this feeding. Face me with honor, or prove yourself utterly consumed by the darkness. The silent god's response came not in words. Vidar had never spoken, even before corruption, but in action. He gestured, and the stillness zone pulsed. Superman, hovering at its edge, suddenly dropped from the sky, cape freezing mid-flutter. Wonder Woman's sword arm locked mid-swing. Even Flash, perpetually in motion, stuttered to near halt at the zone's periphery. Only Odin remained unaffected, the Odin force burning bright enough to push back the absolute zero of Vidar's power. But the effort cost him. His single eye bled light, his armor cracked with frost. Gungnir's runes flickered like dying stars. Your power doesn't work on family, Batman observed through comms, his voice clinical despite the catastrophe unfolding. The stillness affects everyone except you. Shared divine lineage creates immunity, or the dark multiverse recognizes you as catalyst for maximum despair. Killing Vidar breaks you. Failing to kill him dooms everyone. Then I accept despair's burden. Odin descended into the dead zone, each step cracking frozen ground. I have borne worse. Vidar moved with speed that defied his size, crossing 100 yards in eye blink. His fist, now the size of boulder, collided with Odin's hastily raised spear. The impact sent shockwaves that shattered every frozen window within 3 blocks. Odin slid backward, boots carving furrows in crystallized earth, but held ground. You were noble once, Odin roared, driving Gungnir forward in thrust that never missed. The spear's point found Vidar's chest, punched through blackened armor, drew blood that ran black as void stuff. You stood beside Thor at Vanaheim. You saved Sif from the frost giants. You were worthy. Vidar's mouth stretched wider, and Odin felt it. The pull on his own life force, the hunger trying to unmake him atom by atom. But the Odin force resisted, millennia of accumulated power refusing erasure. The two gods grappled, strength meeting strength, creation wrestling entropy. Around them, Superman strained against the stillness, muscles bulging with effort that would shatter planets. Ice cracked along his costume. Heat vision flickered, barely visible. Inch by tortuous inch, he pushed forward into the zone's heart. Wonder Woman's lasso began to glow, magic fighting physics. All-Father, she gasped through frozen throat. The lasso compels truth. If trace of Vidar remains, he's beyond truth. Odin wrestled Vidar to frozen ground, each impact creating craters. The darkness consumed him entirely. There's nothing left to redeem. You don't know that. Superman's shout carried agony, of effort, of principle, tested to breaking. You assume. You've judged him already. That's what tyrants do. The words struck Odin harder than Vidar's fists. He saw it then, the trap the dark multiverse had laid. Force him to execute his own failure, break the ideal he'd claimed to represent, prove himself no different from the injustice Superman this universe feared. Kill Vidar and validate every contingency Batman prepared. Spare him and doom thousands. Wisdom or action. Mercy or necessity. The choice every king faced, magnified to cosmic stakes. Vidar's void eyes met Odin's single blazing orb. For just a moment, fraction of heartbeat, splinter of eternity, something flickered in that darkness. Recognition? Plea? Or merely the hunter recognizing trapped prey? I see you, old friend, Odin whispered, tears freezing on weathered cheeks. And I will not fail you twice. He drove Gungnir deeper, but twisted, not to kill, but to bind. Runes blazed along the spear's length, ancient cedar magic that had once chained Fenrir, imprisoned Loki, held back Ragnarok itself. The Odin force poured through the connection, not destroying Vidar but containing him, wrapping the corruption in chains of pure cosmic will. Vidar thrashed, silent scream widening. The stillness zone collapsed inward, violently, all that stolen life force rushing back to its sources. People gasped awake, hearts hammering to catch up with missed minutes. Superman surged forward, finally free, catching Odin as the All-Father collapsed, Odin force spent to dregs. Bind him, Odin gasped, blood running from nose and eye. Quickly, the runes won't hold long. Need your lantern's constructs, Amazon's lasso, Kryptonian's cold breath, layer containment. I've bought you minutes. No more. Wonder Woman's lasso wrapped around Vidar's thrashing form. Green Lantern constructs materialized. Box within box, cage within cage, each one reinforced with willpower made manifest. Superman's freeze breath encased the bound god in crystal. Cyborg generated electromagnetic fields. Dr. Fate descended. Golden Anks searing containment runes into reality itself. Vidar's struggles weakened but didn't cease. The dark multiverse corruption writhed against imprisonment, testing every weakness, seeking any crack. "The Phantom Zone," Superman said, voice heavy with decision's weight. "We can hold him there indefinitely. No time passes, no way to feed, no chance to grow stronger. It's prison, not execution." "It's cruelty." Odin struggled upright despite Superman's supporting arm. "Eternal isolation, aware but unable to die. How is that mercy?" "It's what we have," Batman's voice acknowledged grimly. "Better than alternatives. And it gives us time to research the dark multiverse infection, find a cure, maybe restore who he was. Maybe." Odin stared at Vidar's bound form, seeing his failure given shape. "Or maybe I've simply postponed the inevitable choice. Tell me, Superman, if years pass without cure, if he breaks containment, if more innocents die because I couldn't end him cleanly, will you call this wisdom or cowardice?" Superman met the All-Father's gaze without flinching. "I'll call it hope. The belief that there's always another way, always one more chance for redemption. You said it yourself. Vidar was noble once. That nobility doesn't just vanish. It's buried, corrupted, imprisoned by darkness. But maybe we can dig it out. And if we can't, then we make the hard choice together, with clear eyes and heavy hearts, but not before we try everything else first." Superman extended his hand. "That's the difference between justice and tyranny, Allfather. Tyrants decide alone. Heroes decide together." Odin stared at the offered hand. The Kryptonian's idealism made flesh, principles tested by fire and somehow surviving. He thought of Thor, of Asgard, of 5,000 years spent making decisions alone on Hlidskjalf's throne, of how much easier it was to execute judgment than earn it. He clasped Superman's hand, warrior's grip meeting warrior's grip. "Together, then." Odin's voice carried weight of surrender, not to defeat, but to possibility he'd forgotten existed. "Show me this Phantom Zone. And pray to whichever gods you favor that your optimism proves wiser than my experience." As they transported Vidar's bound form toward the Fortress of Solitude, Odin felt the Odin Force beginning to stabilize, adapting slowly to this universe's mystical architecture. Behind them, Metropolis recovered, emergency services flooding into Centennial Park, people reuniting with tears and grateful embraces. But deep in the stillness zone's fading epicenter, a single drop of Vidar's black blood had soaked into the frozen earth. And in that blood, the dark multiverse whispered promises to any who might listen. The Fortress of Solitude gleamed like a cathedral carved from cosmic ice, but its crystalline beauty hid function brutal in purpose. Deep within the Kryptonian sanctuary, the Phantom Zone projector hummed with barely contained power, a doorway to dimensional prison where Krypton's worst had languished for millennia. Superman's hand hovered over the activation crystal, hesitation written in the tension of his shoulders. "Second thoughts, Kryptonian?" Odin stood beside the containment field, holding Vidar's bound form. The silent god writhed against layered restraints, void eyes tracking every movement with predatory hunger, barely diminished by imprisonment. "Not second thoughts, just..." Superman's jaw tightened. "The Phantom Zone was created by my people. They believed themselves enlightened, abandoning execution for eternal imprisonment. Then Krypton died, and everyone in the zone survived technically. Aware, conscious, experiencing every moment of eternity while the universe aged around them." He turned to face Odin. "I use it because I must, but I never pretend it's mercy. It's just the least terrible option. Honest, at least." Odin leaned heavily on Gungnir, the Odin Force still recovering from the battle's expenditure. "In Asgard, we chain our criminals beneath the earth, tormented by serpent's venom. Loki endures this for orchestrating Baldur's death, bound until Ragnarok comes. Perhaps all gods are hypocrites, dressing cruelty in necessity's clothing. Perhaps." Wonder Woman approached, still armored, god-killer's sword sheathed but readily accessible. "Or perhaps we recognize that power demands impossible choices, and the best we can do is choose the path that preserves the most potential for redemption." She studied Vidar with warrior's assessment and diplomat's compassion. "He fought with honor once. That warrior may yet be recovered. Batman's voice crackled through the fortress's comm system. He'd remained in the Batcave, monitoring through Superman's network, always watching. Phantom Zone projection ready. Dimensional coordinates locked. Once he's through, even Darkseid couldn't retrieve him without Kryptonian access codes. He'll be secure. Secure. Odin tasted the word like poison. Centuries ago, I imprisoned my daughter Hela in Niflheim, believing her threat too great, her hunger for conquest too absolute. She remained bound only so long as I lived, feeding on resentment, growing stronger in darkness. The moment my power faltered, he trailed off, ancient regret carved into weathered features. Security is temporary. Wisdom lies in addressing root causes, not merely containing symptoms. Then while we contain the symptom, we research the disease. Dr. Fate materialized in cascade of golden light, the helmet of Nabu gleaming with alien intelligence. The dark multiverse infection represents threat beyond singular corrupted deity. The world forge burns backward there, creating realities of fear and failure. If Vidar found passage from your Ginnungagap to our universe, the breach remains. Others could follow. The temperature in the fortress dropped 10 degrees. Superman's eyes widened with horrified realization. You're saying this isn't an isolated incident. The dark multiverse is bleeding into other realities, not just ours. The multiverse is vast, Fate intoned, multiple voices speaking in harmony. Your reality experienced metal. Witness the Batman who laughs in his dark nights? You sealed those breaches, but the dark multiverse doesn't cease existing simply because one universe closes its doors. It seeks new ingress, new realities to corrupt, new heroes to transform into nightmares. Odin's single eye blazed with sudden terrible understanding. Ginnungagap, the void between Yggdrasil's roots. I always believed it merely empty space, the cosmic gap between creation and nothing. But if it connects to your dark multiverse, his grip on Gungnir tightened until runes flared. Thor, Sif, the Warriors 3. All of Asgard sits adjacent to corruption's wellspring, and I left them to pursue Vidar alone. Can you open a portal back? Wonder Woman's question carried urgency. Not immediately. The dimensional breach I tore through was one-way collapse, requiring every scrap of Odin force I could channel. In my current depleted state, attempting similar transit would kill me. Odin's frustration radiated like heat, and Heimdall's Bifrost cannot reach across dimensional boundaries, only within our reality's 9 realms. Then we find another way. Superman activated holographic displays, crystalline projections filling the air with data. Boom tubes, magic rituals, speed force manipulation, Atlantean dimensional gates. Earth has multiple methods for cross-reality travel. We get you home, help you shore up your universe's defenses, and close the breach from both sides. Why? Odin's question stopped all motion. Why expend resources protecting a realm not your own? Your Justice League barely trusts me. Your Batman actively plans my potential elimination. What does my universe matter to yours? The silence stretched until Superman broke it with simple, devastating honesty. Because it's the right thing to do. Because we don't protect only what's convenient or familiar. Because if we only defend our own universe, we're no better than the tyrants we fight. He met Odin's gaze without flinching. And because you came to our reality hunting a threat, putting yourself at risk to contain corruption that could devastate our world. Honor demands we return the courtesy. Honor. Odin studied the Kryptonian. This strange fusion of godlike power and farm boy morality that somehow survived intact despite every reason for cynicism. Thor speaks of honor constantly. I always assumed it youthful idealism, wisdom yet untempered by age. But perhaps, he gestured at Vidar's bound form. Perhaps I've grown too comfortable making pragmatic choices without questioning whether pragmatism has become excuse for abandoning principle. Save the philosophy for later. Batman's voice carried tactical urgency. Oracle just detected massive energy signature manifesting in downtown Metropolis. Same dimensional frequency as Odin's arrival. Something else just came through. The fortress shook. Alarms blared in Kryptonian harmonics that hurt human ears. Superman's heat vision flickered reflexively toward threat he couldn't yet see. Wonder Woman's hand moved to her sword with warrior's instinct. "Show me," Odin commanded, and Superman complied, pulling up satellite imagery on holographic display. The Allfather's blood ran cold. Hovering above Metropolis, supported by the same dimensional tear that had deposited Odin, stood a figure armored in darkness absolute. Not Vidar's corruption. This was deliberate, crafted, designed. The armor bore motifs that hurt to perceive directly, each surface etched with runes that were perversions of those Odin had carved on Gungnir. The face remained mercifully hidden behind a helm, fashioned from what looked disturbingly like shattered pieces of Yggdrasil itself. But Odin recognized the weapon clutched in gauntleted fist. Hofund, Heimdall's sword. The key to Bifrost, the blade that commanded Asgard's dimensional gateway. Impossible, Odin breathed. Heimdall would never surrender Hofund, never betray his post. To take that blade from him, you would have to... The figure's helm tilted upward, looking directly at the satellite, capturing its image. When it spoke, the voice carried across dimensions through sheer force of malevolent will, bypassing technology to echo directly in the fortress's crystalline chambers. The gatekeeper has fallen. The Bifrost is ours, and the Allfather's precious 9 realms burn in your absence, Odin Borson. Did you truly believe one corrupted god represented the dark multiverse's full interest in Asgard? The voice struck recognition like hammer blow. Odin staggered, Gungnir clattering to crystalline floor as strength fled ancient limbs. No, you died. I watched you fall into the void during our battle at the Bifrost. You sacrificed yourself to save. Loki lives, Father. Or what remains of him does, reforged in darkness, perfected by entropy. The trickster prince returns not as prodigal son seeking forgiveness, but as herald of Asgard's ending. The dark multiverse offers what you never could: freedom from your shadow, power without your permission, and the satisfaction of watching everything you built crumble to dust. The transmission cut, leaving only static and horrified silence. Superman moved first, hand on Odin's shoulder. Support or restraint, the Allfather couldn't tell. Who is Loki? What does he mean to Asgard? Everything. Odin's voice cracked with grief millennia old. My adopted son, Thor's brother, god of mischief, of lies, of chaos contained within order's framework. Brilliant, tormented, capable of salvation or damnation depending on which day you asked him. His eye fixed on the empty display where Loki's corrupted form had stood. I thought him dead. I mourned him. And now the dark multiverse returns him as weapon aimed at my heart. Then we stop him, Wonder Woman declared with Amazon certainty. We return you to your reality, rally your forces, defend Asgard against this invasion. You understand nothing. Odin's laugh carried jagged edges. Loki knows every secret defense, every hidden passage, every weakness in Asgard's structure because I taught them to him. He commanded armies before, led frost giants against us, orchestrated coups that nearly toppled the throne. Now imagine that genius enhanced by dark multiverse corruption, unbound by familial loyalty, wielding Heimdall's sword with access to Bifrost itself. His fist struck crystalline floor, creating spiderweb cracks. He can open portals anywhere in 9 realms. No fortress stands secure. No refuge remains hidden. And Thor, the Allfather's voice broke entirely. Thor will hesitate. He always hoped Loki could be redeemed. That hesitation will cost him everything. Batman's voice cut through despair with surgical precision. Then we don't give Loki time to exploit it. Cyborg's already calculating dimensional coordinates based on Hofund's energy signature. Flash can generate Speed Force vortex to bridge realities. Dr. Fate can stabilize the portal with order magic. We send a strike team. Odin, Superman, Wonder Woman, and me. Hit hard, extract your people, seal the breach. You would do this? Odin stared at the comlink as if it might be trick or illusion. Risk your lives in realm not your own, against enemies you don't know, for people who mean nothing to your universe? They mean something to you, Superman said simply. That's enough. Besides, heat vision flickered, dangerous and determined. If the dark multiverse has found a way to corrupt and weaponize gods from other realities, it stops being just your problem. Today it's Loki and Asgard. Tomorrow it could be any of us. Twisted into nightmare versions the dark multiverse sends back to devastate our own worlds. The Kryptonians' logic is sound. Dr. Fate descended through the ceiling. Golden energies already weaving portal framework. The dark multiverse must be challenged at every incursion point. Allowing it to consume Asgard establishes beachhead in Odin's reality. From there, it spreads. Eventually, it reaches here again, stronger, more prepared. Wonder Woman unsheathed her sword, the god-killer blade humming with divine purpose. I've wanted to see Asgard since I was a child, listening to stories of Valkyries and warriors eternal. I imagined arriving as honored guest. She smiled, fierce and beautiful. Fighting beside the All-Father to save it from darkness works just as well. Odin retrieved Gungnir, feeling the spear respond to renewed purpose. The Odin force stirred within him, still depleted, still adapting to this universe's metaphysics, but growing stronger with each passing moment. These heroes of Earth, these mortals and aliens and gods in training, offered alliance without hesitation, risked everything without demanding payment. Thor would like them, Odin realized, would probably already consider them brothers in arms. Very well, the All-Father declared, standing tall despite exhaustion. We forge alliance in blood and battle. You give me warriors to defend my realm. In exchange, I swear on Yggdrasil's roots that Asgard will stand with Earth against any darkness that threatens. Today we fight for 9 realms. Tomorrow, for all realities that refuse the void's embrace. Superman clasped Odin's forearm in warrior's grip. Then let's go save Asgard. And maybe teach Loki why messing with family, even chosen family, never ends well. As Dr. Fate's portal blazed to life, swirling with energies that bridged realities, Odin took one last look at Vidar's imprisoned form. The silent god still thrashed against containment, void eyes tracking their departure. But something in that gaze looked almost grateful? As if some buried fragment of the warrior he'd been approved of bonds forged in battle, alliances built on trust rather than command. Guard him well, Fortress AI, Odin commanded. If we fail in Asgard, he may be the last witness to our existence. Let's not fail then, Batman's voice replied, dry as Gotham rain. I have contingency plans to upload, and they all assume you surviving. The portal's edge crackled with lightning, not the golden shimmer of Bifrost, but something rawer, forged from Speed Force velocity, order magic, and Cyborg's mother box technology. Through its unstable surface, Odin glimpsed familiar constellations, the golden halls of Asgard, and the black smoke rising from their burning remains as the dark multiverse's corruption spread like cancer through reality's foundation. They stepped through together, All-Father, Kryptonian, Amazon, and Dark Knight, a strike team spanning universes, carrying slim hope against overwhelming darkness. Behind them, in the fortress's depths, Vidar's silent scream intensified. And deep in his corrupted essence, the dark multiverse whispered one final message: the pawns advance. The king stands exposed, and checkmate approaches on wings of trickster's laughter. Asgard burned beneath alien stars. The portal spat them onto the Rainbow Bridge, or what remained of it. Bifrost's crystalline pathway, once gleaming with prismatic radiance, now cracked and blackened like bone, exposed to necrotic flame. The observatory that housed its controls stood shattered. Heimdall's post reduced to rubble and dark corruption that pulsed with the rhythm of dying heartbeat. Bodies lay scattered. Einherjar warriors, frozen mid-charge, their golden armor tarnished, life force drained to empty husks. Great Hera, Wonder Woman breathed, hand instinctively moving to her lasso. This is genocide. Odin knelt beside a fallen warrior, Habrok, who'd served 3,000 years, who'd laughed at Odin's table just weeks prior. Now his eyes stared at nothing, mouth locked in silent scream matching Vidar's corruption. Not genocide, transformation. The dark multiverse doesn't simply kill, it converts. These warriors, these loyal souls, become fuel for its expansion. Energy signatures consistent with Centennial Park attack, Batman reported, Cowl's lenses scanning the devastation with clinical precision. But multiplied across dozens of sites. Loki hit fast, hit everywhere simultaneously. Textbook shock and awe meant to prevent organized defense. Superman floated above the bridge, heat vision scanning toward Asgard's golden spires, now half consumed by creeping darkness that defied physics. Buildings stood inverted, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Great Hall, Valaskjalf, flickered between glory and ruin as if reality couldn't decide which state was real. I'm detecting life signs. Hundreds clustered in the palace, defended by some kind of energy barrier. And one massive signature moving between groups, eliminating survivors. Thor. Odin's eye blazed with Odin Force determination. My son holds the inner defenses while Loki systematically collapses the outer realms. Classic siege. Isolate, demoralize, then crush the last resistance when hope has fled entirely. Then we break the siege. Wonder Woman's sword caught starlight that had turned sickly green. Rally to Thor's position. Combine our forces. Push back this darkness before it establishes permanent foothold. Tactically sound, Batman agreed, but predictable. Loki will anticipate Odin rushing to Thor's aid. He'll have prepared ambush, traps, contingencies within contingencies. We need misdirection. A slow clap echoed across the broken bridge. Loki stepped from shadows that shouldn't exist on the Rainbow Bridge's illuminated surface. Hofund held casually in one hand like a toy. The dark multiverse corruption had transformed him utterly. Where once stood the lean trickster prince, now towered something other. His armor shifted, living darkness that formed patterns too complex to track, each one a different way reality might fail. His face remained mercifully uncovered, but the eyes, those clever, tormented eyes that had once held humor and pain in equal measure, now leaked void stuff that erased light itself. Father. Loki's voice carried harmonics that shouldn't exist. You brought heroes. How quaint. Tell me, are these the replacements you sought while I dangled in the abyss? New sons to love? New warriors to command? New pawns to sacrifice when necessity demands? Loki. Odin's voice cracked with millennia of complicated love. You lived. All this time, you endured, and you never sent word. Never reached out? Reached out to what? Loki's laugh tasted of entropy. The All-Father who adopted me as political tool? Who loved Thor's straightforward heroism, but viewed my cleverness as character flaw requiring correction? I fell into darkness, Father, and in that darkness I found truth. You never wanted a son. You wanted a bridge to Jotunheim, a living treaty with the frost giants, a reminder of mercy's strategic value. Hofund blazed with stolen Bifrost energy. The dark multiverse offered something you never could: acceptance without condition, power without permission, and freedom to become what I was always meant to be. And what's that? Superman drifted forward, cape settling around shoulders that carried weight of worlds. A monster? A destroyer? The dark multiverse doesn't offer freedom, Loki. It offers servitude dressed as liberation. I've seen what it does. Batman who laughs, Dark Knights, Barbados himself. They all thought they'd transcended limitation. Instead, they became slaves to entropy. The Kryptonian speaks wisdom. Loki's void eyes focused on Superman with terrible intensity. Tell me, last son of Krypton, when you held Metropolis in your grip during the Injustice timeline, when you built your regime of absolute peace through absolute control, did you feel enslaved? Or did you finally feel free to do what was necessary without morality's shackles? Superman flinched, old wounds reopening. That timeline exists as warning, not aspiration. I became tyrant because I stopped listening, stopped questioning, stopped believing anyone could understand the burden I carried. Exactly. Loki's smile carried knives. You learned the truth all gods eventually discover. Power and wisdom are incompatible. You can be powerful or you can be moral, but attempting both produces only paralysis disguised as principle. He gestured, and the darkness surrounding Asgard pulsed. I've made my choice. The dark multiverse showed me clarity, No more doubt, no more hesitation, no more hoping father might finally say he was proud. I was always proud. Odin's admission emerged raw, unguarded. Proud of your brilliance, your adaptability, your capacity to see solutions where others saw only obstacles. But I feared that very cleverness. Feared you'd turn it toward destruction if not carefully guided. So I constrained you, corrected you, compared you to Thor's simplicity because simplicity was safer. His grip on Gungnir trembled. I failed you, Loki. Failed to see that caging the trickster was caging your essence. But this? He gestured at burning Asgard. This isn't freedom. This is revenge given cosmic scale. Perhaps? Loki twirled Hofund with casual mastery. Or perhaps it's education. Teaching you what I learned in the void. That creation and destruction are indistinguishable. That order and chaos serve the same master. That your precious 9 realms exist only because I allow them to. Watch. He drove Hofund into the Rainbow Bridge, and the Bifrost screamed. Dimensional portals erupted across Asgard's skyline. Dozens, hundreds, each one disgorging corruption given form. Not just dark multiverse entities, but twisted versions of Asgardian heroes. There, a Sif, whose beauty had curdled to predatory hunger, hunting her former comrades. There, a Fandral, whose charm had become manipulation absolute, commanding Einherjar to turn on each other. There, versions of Thor himself, dozens of them, each one representing a moment where the god of thunder could have chosen darkness over light. The dark multiverse doesn't create nightmares from nothing, Loki explained with Professor's patience. It manifests the paths not taken, the choices refused, the potential for corruption that exists in every soul. For every hero, infinite villains. For every moment of nobility, countless instances of failure. I've brought them all home, Father. Every version of Asgard that fell, every timeline where you failed, every reality where I won. His smile widened. Welcome to the family reunion. Batman's gauntlet was already typing. Oracle, we need reinforcements, full league activation. Dr. Fate, Constantine, Zatanna, every mystical asset. This isn't a battle. It's an invasion from conceptual space. Negative, Cyborg's voice carried frustration. The dimensional barriers are hardening. Whatever Loki did with Hofund is sealing Asgard off from outside intervention. You're on your own. Wonder Woman's lasso blazed gold, cutting through encroaching darkness. Then we fight with what we have. All Father, we need Thor. Whatever else happens, father and sons reunited stand stronger than you divided. Thor cannot help. Loki's declaration carried finality. I visited him first, you see. Told him I lived, that I'd found purpose, that I finally understood father's lessons about power's proper use. And my dear, trusting brother? Void eyes gleamed with tears that burned like acid. He hesitated. Couldn't bring himself to strike down his brother, even knowing what I'd become. So I trapped him. Not in darkness or corruption, but in choices paralysis. He stands in Valaskjalf's heart, surrounded by people he could save if he'd only kill me. But he won't. Can't. And so, everyone suffers while he agonizes over impossible morality. You're using his love against him, Superman said quietly, horror and understanding warring across his features. Making his compassion the weapon that destroys everything he'd die to protect. Now the Kryptonian truly understands, Loki bowed mockingly. That's the dark multiverse's genius. It doesn't fight strength with strength. It turns virtue into liability, transforms every noble impulse into mechanism of destruction. Thor's mercy dooms Asgard. Odin's wisdom paralyzed his response. And you, Superman? The void eyes fixed on him. Your hope will be what kills everyone you love when you finally admit that some enemies cannot be redeemed, some corruption cannot be cleansed, some evils must be destroyed before they destroy everything. No. The word emerged from Odin with Odin force behind it, shaking reality's foundations. You speak the dark multiverse's lies with your own voice, but they remain lies nonetheless. Yes, Thor hesitates, because he loves you despite everything. Yes, I constrained you, because I feared losing you to darkness that has now claimed you. Yes, Superman hopes, because hope is the only defense against entropy's inevitability. He raised Gungnir skyward, and lightning split the corrupted sky. But you forget one lesson, my son. One truth I taught you before pride and pain corrupted the teaching. What truth? Loki's mockery faltered slightly. That family, true family, forged in battle and tested by time, doesn't surrender, doesn't quit, doesn't accept darkness's victory as inevitable. Odin's eye blazed with power that made the Odin Force's previous displays look like candle flame. You think Thor stands paralyzed? No. He holds the line, protects the innocent, maintains hope against hopelessness because that's what heroes do. You think I came alone? No. I brought allies who fight not for glory or command, but because protecting others is their essence. Superman's heat vision erupted, twin beams of solar fury that carved through dark multiverse constructs like tissue. Loki, I've been where you are. Convinced that only absolute power could deliver absolute justice. Convinced that hesitation equaled weakness, that mercy was liability, that hope was naivete. He flew forward through the carnage, unstoppable Kryptonian force married to farm boy determination. But I learned, the hard way through nearly destroying everything I loved, that power without compassion is just tyranny with better PR. You want to teach lessons? Let me teach you one. Hope doesn't quit. Wonder Woman's lasso snapped forward, golden truth cutting through dimensional barriers. It wrapped around Loki's arm, around Hofun's stolen blade, and Amazon's strength pulled, not to harm, but to connect. The lasso of truth forced honesty, compelled authenticity, stripped away lies until only core self remained. For one crystalline moment, Loki's void eyes cleared. The corruption receded like tide, revealing beneath it the god he'd been, clever, tormented, brilliant, broken, and utterly, devastatingly alone. I'm sorry, the real Loki whispered through the dark multiverse's control. I wanted to be free. I wanted to matter. I wanted... The darkness surged back, violent, angry at exposure. Loki screamed, actual sound from the trickster who'd always used words as weapons, and the dark multiverse poured through him, using his body as anchor point for full invasion. The corrupted versions of Asgardian heroes dissolved, their stolen essence feeding the manifestation. What emerged from Loki's form was no longer God or corruption, but fusion of both. An avatar of the dark multiverse itself, wearing Loki's face as mask, using his pain as doorway. You dare, it spoke with voice composed of every reality's death scream. Attempt redemption, compassion, truth? We are the dark multiverse. We are every path not taken, every failure, every moment heroes chose wrong and worlds burned. Your hope is ash. Your compassion is weakness. Your truth is ours, Batman interrupted, stepping forward with contingency in hand. A device that looked like cross between Mother Box and Kryptonian crystal, jury-rigged with cyborg's technology and powered by portable fragments of nth metal. You're the dark multiverse, manifested failure given form, which means you're predictable, because failure follows patterns, and patterns can be exploited. He activated the device. Reality inverted. The nth metal, element that defied entropy, that powered Hawkman's reincarnation, that existed outside normal causality, generated field of absolute stability. Within its radius, the dark multiverse's corruption couldn't take hold. Failed realities couldn't manifest. Entropy reversed. The Avatar screamed, Loki's features twisting in agony as dark multiverse essence burned away in nth metal's presence. It retreated, pulling back through dimensional tears, abandoning its host rather than face element that denied its existence. Loki collapsed. The corruption bled from his eyes, leaving behind only exhausted God who'd been puppet to forces beyond comprehension. Hofund clattered to the bridge, its stolen light dimming. Odin caught his son before he hit the ground. Loki, I have you. You're safe. I killed them, Loki whispered, voice hoarse from screaming. Heimdall, the Einherjar, everyone. I was aware the whole time, Father, watching myself destroy everything, unable to stop, unable to die, just watching. I know. Odin's tears fell freely now, unconcerned with kingship or dignity. I know, my son, and we will bear that burden together. You are not beyond forgiveness. You are not beyond love. You never were. Superman landed beside them, heat vision fading to concerned blue eyes. The corruption's retreating, but not defeated. It's pulling back to the breach point. Ginnungagap, you called it? If we don't seal it now, this happens again. To Asgard, to other realms, eventually to Earth. Then we seal it. Wonder Woman retrieved Hofund, offering it to Odin with respect. But we'll need Bifrost's power, the Odin Force, and probably every mystical defense Asgard possesses. Can we generate that kind of energy? Batman's scanner beeped. We have maybe 20 minutes before the dark multiverse establishes permanent foothold. After that, entropy becomes self-sustaining. Asgard collapses into failed reality, becoming part of the dark multiverse itself. 20 minutes to save 9 realms. Odin struggled to his feet, supporting Loki with one arm, gripping Gungnir with the other. Thor holds Valaskjalf's heart. If we can reach him, combine the Odin force with Mjolnir's power, channel it through Bifrost using Hofund, we create a positive energy pulse, Superman finished, understanding dawning. Like a cosmic defibrillator. Shock the system back to life, blast the corruption out through sheer force of hope and determination. It's insane, Batman observed. Unstable, unpredictable, with about 40% chance of catastrophic failure that could rupture dimensional barriers permanently. 40%? Wonder Woman smiled, fierce and beautiful. I've faced worse odds. Let's go save Asgard properly. They moved as one, Allfather, adopted son and Earth's heroes, racing across the shattered rainbow bridge toward Valaskjalf's golden spires. The dark multiverse entities harried them, throwing corrupted warriors and failed realities like waves against stone. But Superman's strength carved the path. Wonder Woman's sword cut through dimensional barriers. Batman's gadgets exploited every weakness, and Odin, the Odin force burning brighter with each step, held the line. They burst through Valaskjalf's doors to find Thor standing exactly where Loki had left him, surrounded by hundreds of terrified Asgardians. Mjolnir raised but unused, tears streaming down face carved from honor and impossible choice. Father, Thor's voice broke, he's alive. Loki lives, but he's the corruption. I couldn't. I know. Odin embraced his son. Loki still supported between them, 3 generations of complicated love reunited in Burning Hall. You held true. Maintained hope when darkness demanded despair. You are everything I hoped you'd become, my son. Both of you. Touching, Batman interrupted. But we have 15 minutes. Everyone who can channel energy, Thor's lightning, Superman's heat vision, Wonder Woman's divine strength, Odin's Odin force, even Loki's residual magic. We pour it all into Bifrost through Hofund. Create an energy wave so bright, so fundamentally opposed to entropy, that the dark multiverse has no choice but to retreat. And if it doesn't work, Thor asked, ever practical despite emotion. Then at least we tried together, Superman said simply. Which is more than the dark multiverse can claim. It feeds on isolation, on fear, on the belief that we face darkness alone. We prove it wrong, right here, right now. They formed a circle in Valaskjalf's heart. Gods and heroes, aliens and mortals, fathers and sons. Hofund was driven into the floor at the circle's center, its blade pointing toward the heavens, toward Ginnungagap's corrupted void. Odin channeled the Odin force. Thor called lightning from skies clearing despite impossibility. Superman poured solar energy harvested from Earth's yellow sun. Wonder Woman's divine strength, gift of Olympus meeting Asgard's power. Batman's nth metal device, stabilizing the energy flow. Even Loki, exhausted and broken, contributed what magical strength remained uncorrupted. The energy built, climbed, reached toward threshold where matter became light, where physics surrendered to will. The Bifrost activated not as transportation, but as weapon, a beam of pure hope and determination fired directly into the dark multiverse's heart. The corruption screamed, reality inverted. And for one impossible moment, Asgard's golden spires burned brighter than they ever had, bright enough to banish every shadow, bright enough to remind the universe that hope shines brightest in the darkest night. The dark multiverse broke, retreated, sealed behind barriers of light and will and absolute refusal to surrender. Asgard stood, damaged, mourning its dead, bearing scars that would never fully heal, but standing, surviving, refusing darkness's victory. Odin collapsed. The Odin force finally spent beyond recovery, but caught by both sons, one born, one chosen, both loved. "We endure," he whispered. "All of us. Together." Superman helped lift the All-Father, supporting him toward the healing chambers. "We should get you back to Earth. Dr. Fate can help accelerate your recovery, make sure the dimensional transit didn't cause permanent damage." "No." Odin's refusal was gentle but absolute. "Asgard needs its king, needs to see that even broken, we rebuild, that even scarred, we remain. But Earth, your universe, I owe a debt that transcends realms." He removed a ring from his hand, ancient and inscribed with runes of binding. "This is my oath, Superman of Earth. Should your reality ever face threat beyond your capability to oppose, call upon Asgard. We will answer. The All-Father's word is given." Superman accepted the ring with appropriate gravity. "And if you need us, I know where to find heroes now." Odin smiled, weary but genuine. "On a planet of mortals who refuse to accept that impossible means anything other than not yet solved." As Batman reconfigured the nth metal device for return transport, Wonder Woman touched Thor's shoulder. "Your brother can be saved. The corruption didn't run deep enough to reach his core. With time, healing, and family who refuses to give up on him, I know." Thor's voice carried hope tested by fire and proven true. "Loki is complicated, always has been, but he's my brother. And brothers don't surrender to darkness. They pull each other back toward the light." The portal opened, Earth calling its heroes home. As they stepped through, Odin called out one final message. "Tell your Batman, his contingency was unnecessary. I am humbled, not broken. Wiser, not diminished. And should he ever doubt whether gods can be trusted with power, remind him that today, a god chose to trust mortals. Perhaps that's the real lesson." They emerged in the Fortress of Solitude, where Vidar still thrashed in containment, where Phantom Zone hummed with imprisoned threats, where Earth continued spinning beneath stars that held fewer nightmares than before. "So," Flash said, having monitored from Watchtower, "we just saved another universe, stopped dark multiverse invasion, and proved gods can be allies. Standard Thursday?" "Standard Justice League," Superman corrected, exhaustion and satisfaction mixing in equal measure. "Though I think we've earned a day off." "Denied," Batman said flatly. "Oracle reports new disturbance in Gotham. Something came through the dimensional barriers during the Asgard fight. Small, easily missed, but significant." "Of course. Because threats never rested. Because darkness always tested the borders. Because being a hero meant facing impossible odds and somehow finding the will to continue. But they would continue. Together. As they always had. As they always would. Because hope shines brightest in the darkest night." The All-Father's ring sat in the Fortress of Solitude's gallery of gifts, beside Wonder Woman's Amazon bracelet, Green Lantern's backup ring, and Barry's first Flash costume, a testament to alliance forged across realities. Odin had returned to his universe bearing scars earned in defense of both Nine Realms and Earth. His wisdom deepened by heroes who taught an ancient god that power without trust was merely imprisonment by another name. In Asgard, Loki began the long road toward redemption, his corruption purged but memories intact. Thor stood beside him, unwavering, proving that family meant refusing to abandon those who'd lost their way. And across the Nine Realms, whispers spread of the day Asgard fell and rose again, aided by champions from beyond dimensional boundaries, proof that heroism transcended reality itself. Batman updated his contingency files, adding notes about Odin Force capabilities, Bifrost mechanics, and dimensional invasion protocols. But he also added something unprecedented, a recommendation that Odin's oath be honored without question. The All-Father had earned trust the only way that mattered, through actions that matched words. Superman kept the ring close, studying its runes, understanding now that gods weren't so different from anyone else bearing impossible burdens. They struggled, they failed, they chose wrong and lived with consequences. But the best of them, like Odin finally allowing himself to trust, like Loki fighting corruption even when consciousness remained trapped, never stopped trying to be worthy of the power they wielded. Wonder Woman returned to Themyscira, with stories of Asgard's golden halls and warriors eternal, adding to the legends her people maintained. Zeus grumbled about rival pantheons, but secretly respected the All-Father's restraint. The gods of Olympus learned that day they were not alone in bearing divinity's weight. And in the dark multiverse, in chambers built from failed realities and crystallized despair, something stirred. The invasion had been repelled, yes, but now they knew. There existed universes beyond DC's reality, realms populated by different gods, heroes operating under different rules. The dark multiverse was patient. Entropy was inevitable. And eventually, every hero faced the choice between hope and despair. But not today. Today, Asgard stood. Earth endured. And across infinite realities, heroes held the line against impossible darkness, proving again and again that the greatest power wasn't strength or wisdom or even divinity itself. It was the absolute refusal to surrender. The stubborn insistence that tomorrow could be better than today. The foolish, magnificent belief that hope shines brightest in the darkest night. Odin Borson had entered DC's universe, hunting corruption. He left having rediscovered something he'd lost millennia ago, faith in heroes whose power came not from cosmic force or ancient magic, but from simple, devastating choice to keep fighting when every reason existed to quit. The All-Father's legend would endure in both universes now. And when darkness threatened either realm, when impossible choices loomed and despair whispered seductive surrender, heroes would remember. An ancient god learned humility from mortals. Brothers pulled each other back from the void. And a Justice League spanning universes proved that no darkness, no matter how absolute, could extinguish light held by those who refused to let it die. More battles awaited. Loki's full recovery would take years, perhaps centuries. The dark multiverse would test the barriers again, seeking weakness, exploiting fear. And somewhere in the cosmic balance, Darkseid watched with calculating interest, noting the All-Father's power, the dimensional breaches, the potential for exploitation. But those were tomorrow's problems. Tonight, heroes rested. Gods healed. And across two universes, life continued. Complicated, messy, beautiful, and achingly precious.